The world of prosthetic limbs has been making strides for some time now, but the newest versions are beginning to work a little more like this. That is, controlled by the mind of the person sporting the bionic limb. Researchers at the Rehabilitation Institute of Chicago have, for the first time, unveiled a prosthetic leg controlled by the human brain. Okay, so it looks more like a robot wearing a flip-flop than RoboCop, but it works more like a human leg than ever before, combining thoughts and neural signals to produce movement. Zach Vaughter, who lost part of his right leg in a motorcycle accident 4 years ago, has been testing the new design.
I seamlessly walk up to a set of stairs and just go up, foot over foot, up the stairs like you do. Whereas with my normal prosthetic, I kind of have to drag it behind me as I go up the stairs.
The leg, which was built thanks to $8 million in funding from the U.S. Army, works by redirecting nerves headed to the damaged muscle, to the hamstrings, and a nearby sensor that reads what the nerves are communicating. Then it does whatever your thoughts tell it to do.
Zach has been rewired. The nerves that would have went to the muscles that control his ankle
The history of prosthetics dates from antiquity, and for the most part, prosthetics, upper limb prosthetics, were made for warriors who lost a limb in combat so that they could continue to be fighters. And most of these prosthetics were made of iron or wood. The early prostheses were made one at a time, not in any mass production. They were made like an artist makes a piece of art. And who were able to get these prostheses were people who had the means, the money. World War I saw millions of men engaged in combat, which was very different than previous wars. Now we had entire countries and millions of men fighting with enormous numbers of casualties. And the volume of these casualties drove the development of specialty centers for these patients, mainly in Europe where the casualties were. And this brought about a big change in the relationship between surgeons who dealt with the wounds and the prosthetic makers. Before that time, the surgeon would treat the wound, and then the person would have to go find a prosthetic maker. World War I brought about this collaboration where the prosthetists and the surgeons worked together in the same hospital, collaborating on developing and fitting prostheses for wounded soldiers. And
too complex. It is also taken into fact that most electronic prosthetics have a motor in them in order for the prosthetic to actually move. The first way of controlling a prosthetic is using your body. Cables from the attachment mechanism allow the arm to be moved and the hand to be closed or open if a certain body part is moving it. The cable is usually attached to the opposite active shoulder. Moving the shoulder in a certain way can cause the prosthetic to function. This type of prosthetic requires no motor due to its lacking of electricity. The next way to function a prosthetic limb is with the switch method. To move the prosthetic, small switches are placed either inside the socket or on the opposite shoulder. The switches are activated through the use of the other shoulder or the muscles in the stump, depending on where the switches are. Since a limb must perform different tasks, a variety of switches or a sequence of switches are used by the patient. Finally, the most advanced prosthetics are myoelectric prosthetics. Myoelectric prosthetics require muscle movement from the stump to work. To do this, myoelectric prosthetics have electrodes attached to the stump. When a muscle contracts, it produces a small electric signal. The electrodes detect these signals and intensifies them to the motors within the prosthesis, which then change correspondingly. However, there is a more advanced version of this. It is called targeted muscle regeneration, or TMR for short. Before explaining what TMR is, let's first understand some basic physiology. In order for them to move, your brain sends out a signal to the muscles. The signal is an electric command from the motor cortex that goes to your spinal cord, to the peripheral nerves, and then finally to your muscles in your limb. However, if you're missing a limb, the peripheral nerves will still do their job and send down those signals, but is unable to reach its destination to the amputated muscle. With TMR, a patient surgically gets their nerves and the residual limb moved to other muscles. Electrodes are then placed on the new muscle. When the patient tries to move their amputated arm, electric signals meant to go to arm muscles will now go to other muscles and cause other muscles to contract instead. The electrodes then pick these signals up and send them to the prosthetic. So when a patient is thinking about moving their amputated arm, the prosthetic will move.
Prosthetic limbs go from rudimentary to rad with an incredible new Lego-friendly feature which lets kids build their own arm.